All right, let's dive right in. We're going to tackle a really tough paradox today. You see, we all think of the American school system as this great equalizer, right? A place where anyone can succeed. But what if by its very design, it's actually doing the exact opposite?
We're taught to see schools as these ladders of opportunity, available to absolutely everyone. But the sources we're digging into today, well, they point to a pretty deep contradiction. They suggest the system might actually be built to maintain the very inequality it's supposed to solve.
I mean, listen to that. That is a heavy statement. It completely flips the script on how we think about school. So, instead of a ladder leading up, this quote paints a picture of a fortress, a system designed to keep success in and everyone else out.
And that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? If schools are all about helping kids get ahead, how on earth could they be one of the main things holding inequality in place? To really understand that, we have to rewind a bit and look at how this whole system was built to begin with.
You know, the inequality we see all around us, especially in schools, it isn't some kind of historical accident. Nope. It's the result of a long, long history of very intentional choices and policies. It's a system that was invented, an invisible architecture of division.
The wealth gap that fuels so much of the inequity in schools, it didn't just appear out of nowhere. It was manufactured. I mean, policy after policy was specifically designed to build wealth for white families, a lot of the time by taking it directly from others. The source material even calls it a kind of affirmative action for whites.
And if you look at this timeline, you can see the pattern so clearly. Back in 1862, you have the Homestead Act, giving away huge pieces of Native American land. Then the Dawes Act sells off even more. And think about this. As recently as the 1930s, the Federal Housing Act basically created segregated suburbs by funneling almost all home loan money to white families. This isn't just a series of bad coincidences, it's a blueprint.
This idea of separating people had to be actively created. The sources point out that right after the Civil War, poor white and black citizens were often teaming up politically, and that really threatened the power of the white elite. So what did they do? They launched a white supremacy campaign to drive a wedge between them. Segregation was never natural. It was a political strategy, plain and simple.
Okay, so that's the historical backdrop. But how do schools, right now, today, keep this system running? Well, they often act as a kind of giant sorting machine. And a lot of times, the educators inside don't even realize it's happening. The key, it turns out, is in the language we all use.
So to really wrap our heads around this, the sources give us this incredible framework. It breaks down how we talk about schools into two different camps. On one side, you have Discourse I, that's the default, the status quo. And on the other, Discourse II, the kind of conversation that could actually change things.
Let's start with Discourse I, because this is the one we hear all the time. It's the language of control, of discipline problems, of dropout rates, of low test scores. It's always focused on the symptoms. It makes us ask, hey, what's wrong with this student? Instead of the much harder question, what's wrong with this system? It ends up blaming kids and families for problems that were designed long before they were ever born.
And that's what makes this way of talking so powerful. It's what you'd call hegemonic. Basically, it makes the whole system feel totally natural, inevitable, just the way things are. And when that happens, the sorting machine becomes invisible. So when we talk about creating world-class standards, we might just be using new words for the same old machine.
And the results? Well, they're just devastatingly clear. Just look at this data from the Civil Rights Data Collection. Black students make up about 18% of enrollment, but they account for 35% of first-time suspensions and an incredible 46% of repeat suspensions. This isn't just about individual kids misbehaving. This is a systemic outcome. And it goes way beyond just suspensions. Black students are 2.3 times more likely than their white classmates to be referred to law enforcement for something that happened at school. That sorting machine, it isn't just deciding who goes to college. It's a pipeline into the justice system.
But here's the thing. There is another way. We don't have to be stuck in this default conversation. We can choose intentionally to shift to a new one, a conversation that can actually transform our schools from the inside out.
So let's go back to that chart and look at the other side. Discourse II. This is all about shifting our focus from the symptoms to the root causes. It's about moving from control to transformation. And here's the best part. It's not about pretending to have all the answers. It's not learning to ask way better questions.
See, Discourse II demands that we ask really tough questions like this one. It forces us to take apart what feels normal and really look at why it exists. It makes us challenge the very idea of the way things are.
Or think about this question, because it completely flips the script. All of a sudden, the problem isn't a disruptive student anymore. The problem might be a school culture that is making that student feel invisible or unwelcome. The focus shifts from fixing the kid to fixing the environment.
So what does this actually look like in the real world? How do we start having these new conversations and actually redesigning our schools? Well, the sources give us this really powerful framework called equity by design.
These principles give us a roadmap. It all starts with you, with self-awareness. Then, it's about designing for those on the very margins, because when you find solutions that work for them, they usually end up working for everybody. It takes courage to make the invisible visible, to call out power dynamics. It means you have to be willing to give up power when your actions don't line up with your values. And crucially, it's about speaking the future into existence, using new language to write a totally new story.
And that's the bottom line. Equity isn't some training you go to or a box you check off. It's a verb. It is a constant, active process of designing something new. It means the process itself matters just as much as the outcome. It means we build the future we want by living it, right here, today.
And this isn't just a question for teachers or principals. This is a question for all of us.
You have to remember this. The system we have right now wasn't an act of God or an accident of nature. It was designed by people. And that means people, us, can redesign it. Every single one of us is participating in the design of this moment, whether we realize it or not.
So that leaves us with one last, really critical question. Every single day, with the words we choose and the actions we take, we are designing something. So the question for all of us is, what are you building? Thanks for digging into this with us.